Right, okay. Welcome to another episode of Founders Unfiltered with myself, Mahlangu. And today, it's a very special cold episode because we've been on a production break for a while. The last time we shot, it was kind of warm. But now it's cold, you see, I'm ready, I'm in it. And today, we have another entrepreneur, of course, another founder, a man who came to Johannesburg 5 years ago today.
Yeah.
5 years ago today.
Yeah.
You came to Johannesburg.
Yeah, so it's 5 years. So I arrived on the 7th. It's the 8th today, right?
It's the 8th.
Yeah, I arrived on the 7th of May, 2017.
2017.
Yeah.
So, the man is, I'll let him introduce himself. Mr. Likhojane, sir, take it away.
Sure.
Where were you living from when you came here?
Sure.
Yeah,
so my name is Lebo Likhojane, spelled with an L-I. Probably in the headings or the headlines. I can't know when you introduce.
The banner.
Yeah, the banner. Yeah, you see it's spelled with an L-I. So it is Lebo Likhojane. So I arrived in 2017, 2017 on the 7th of May. And it has been 5 years since I've been here. I came here, I took a risk. I jumped from where I was in Bloemfontein to where I find myself today. Yeah. So it's one of those things that in your life you really look back and say, you know what, I've taken some risk in my life. Yeah. And they've pointed me in a particular direction, and it has not been easy. And I don't think even when I took the decision to come to Johannesburg, I really knew that it's not going to be an easy ride. And here I find myself today. It's 5 years, man. When I think about it, I've failed. I've done some mistakes. I'm a father now. Yeah. You know, if you really think about it, for the past 5 years, what has my life turned out to be? Yeah. Ever since I made that decision in 2017 when I was like a 24-year-old, you know?
So who is Lebo Likhojane in Bloemfontein, and how does he get into entrepreneurship in Bloemfontein? Because I assume the entrepreneurship bug beat you in Bloemfontein.
Sure.
And you decided to make it bigger, I have to come to Jos.
Sure.
So who's Lebo in Bloemfontein? How does he get into entrepreneurship? And how does he start?
Yeah, it's quite interesting, man. When I think about it, it really takes me back to where I really started thinking about, let me make something out of my life. You know, I started selling, the normal stories that everyone has. I started selling sweets and all those things. But I really started selling Tupperware in matric. I was a kid who was selling Tupperware. And then I started selling, I was a snake man at some point. But when I really started formally going into saying that I'm an entrepreneur and I have a registered business and I'm running a business, right? Because for it to be a business, it has to be registered and all that, formally and legally so, right? But doing entrepreneurship, selling, doing my thing, it has always been there. So in Bloemfontein, I started with a company called, it was an NGO, NPC type of thing that was going on. It was called the Black Pencil Group. What we were doing, we're writing a lot of articles on entrepreneurship in Free State. We did some workshops, some cinemas. And then at the time, I was still a university student at the University of Free State. And I did quite a lot of things, man. And at some point, we started an app called Social Startup with a friend of mine. He's at now, Mbangiso, Mabaso. We worked together. We owned an office somewhere in town. And up until I started a company called Smart. How I started Smart Sentials, I was a student. It was in 2016. It was during the times of Fees Must Fall. You know what I mean? And I had just left the space of entrepreneurship with my mother saying that I'm going to focus on studies, right? So I go back to varsity. While going back to varsity, so my life has always been an up and down thing. In varsity, out of varsity, in varsity, out of varsity, you know. And out of varsity, I'm trying to look at things that I'm trying to do. That's how I started selling, so that I can survive and have a girlfriend and maintain a certain life, you know. So Yeah, that was the thing. And then I got deregistered in 2016. I found myself in the streets. And when I say in the streets, it means that I'm just back in the streets. I'm not a student. I'm not employed. I'm just looking for stuff to do, you know. And kikokasi, every day I wake up and I think of the things that I have to do. A lady has to leave 20 rand for me to buy bread and all those things, you know what I mean? So at some point, because we were chilling with, I had two friends who were also kokasi at the time, and what I did was, we used to chill, man, in the morning, you know, and then I go to the gents, and at some point we sit there, and I'm like, yo, niggas, let's go to town, let's set up shop. And then what I mean by setting up shop, we literally went to town and we bought vegetables. We set up a food stall in town. I mean, like what you see in town, in the CBDs.
Started with what you had.
We started with what we had at the time, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, look, man, let me see. There's a lot of people that went through schools through such businesses, you know, informal sector, right? So as I was there, I realized that, okay, cool, there's actually money here, you know.
You're selling
fruit and veg on a daily basis.
People who are coming from work.
This is in town.
Catching taxis.
They're catching taxis next to the taxi rank. You know the
taxi rank.
Yeah, we're gonna get maraca next to taxi rank. Stanky, $1. Every day, rapaisa. Do you know what I'm saying? So, and I think for me, the nice thing about people like us, man, I mean, like you grew up as a very street smart guy, you know what I'm saying? You understand the language, and then you went to varsity, you've been to the academic part of it, you've been to a lecture, the structured thinking, the understanding of concept and principles, and your ability now to start adapting them, it lies entirely with you, you know what I mean? Because if it was the case, everyone should have been an entrepreneur or everyone should have pursued something, you know what I'm saying? But we are limited in thinking and how we see these things. So you'd find that now I'm in the streets, I'm selling on a daily basis. Now what was different with what we were doing? So this was me and Strobo and KG. What was different with what we were doing? We were applying business principles in the business itself, as much as it's informal. And I noticed something, I mean, like, you start to look at, I mean, like, in varsity, we were taught SWOT analysis and understanding your strength, all those things. But if you apply it in real life, you start to realize that, oh, okay, cool, these things work. And as much as I saw that, a lot of people did not see that. People that know me, people that went to varsity with me. Because the thing is, I'm from varsity, dude. I mean, and like,
you see them in town, they're buying fruits and veggies from you.
Do you get what I mean? We know it's a failed story in South Africa. Do you get what I mean? But the thinking, people did not understand that I saw the bigger picture. I understood what I was doing, and I knew exactly what I was doing. And I think the most important thing about that was that I knew myself as well, you know, because it's a journey of self, you know what I mean? So all these trials and tribulations in my life of going to varsity, coming out of varsity, it caused me to ask myself very difficult questions about myself, you know what I'm saying? Otherwise, I would have found myself in a position where I feel pity for myself. And I was not entitled to anything. I was just about, hey man, I have to survive, you know what I mean? So I'm selling.
So you're selling there in the street.
I'm selling.
And of course, you are experiencing people that you went to varsity with.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation. Yeah, it has its own, it has its own dynamics that one must be able to, you have to be very strong psychologically
to be able to
bear that pain. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a pain.
So how do you go from that to then establishing Smart Sentials, and then to coming down to Joburg?
So now this is the transition, right? So now the transition happens when I start realizing that this thing has money, right? This thing makes money on a daily basis. We clock money. We have a bank account, we clock money. Money is always going into the bank account. So I'm seeing these transactions, right? And I'm like, how do I grow this thing? How do I get out from the streets to getting into a mall? I mean, like at the time, 2016, technology was still a 4IR government statement, but not necessarily understanding operationalizing the whole thing. Do you get what I mean? So I found concepts. I mean, like, because you remember I did say that we started we were building a startup called Social Startup. So then we were exposed to technology. We were exposed to what digital can do, right? And then that's when I understood that there's a concept called e-commerce. And at the time, Facebook used to have, and it was still new when Facebook introduced pages, where you would build a Facebook page and then have everyone liking it, right? And then that's when I started now Smart Sentials, because I was like, okay, let me sell fruit and veg or food online, but with a different target audience, because I understood that the people that we sell for on the streets that run every day or that come every day from work, they work a particular job, so they are very limited in certain things.
Price.
Yeah, price, and they're very, you know what I mean? So I looked at the students now, and then Smart Sentials was started as a student website, a student store, e-commerce store, you know, but I was still running here and piloting Smart Sentials here.
So you're still in Bloemfontein piloting Smart Sentials, leveraging the internet.
Yes, 100%. So what I did was I started creating combos for students, because now I understood that, okay, from the University of the Free State to shops, it's quite a bit of a distance for you to walk. Or the ones that are closer, they are quite expensive. And then I created combos. And then from combos now, I started advertising in Johannesburg. Now I started wanting to tap into a different market, because I felt like there was a ceiling for me in Bloom. I wouldn't have grown. So now my life is back. I'm starting to speak technology, you know. I'm starting being invited to stuff. You know, I'm back, you know. So now the psychology has changed again. My confidence is back, you know what I'm saying? Because it's those little things that those little wins that remind you that, hey, dude, you're still on the road and you're still going up. You know what I mean? Regardless of the lowest way you find yourself. So now, I advertised in Johannesburg, and I saw a demand, man. I saw a demand. People were calling, people were sending me messages to say that, where do you deliver and stuff like that. And at the time, I'm not in Joburg. And at some point, I told my mother, hey, old lady, I'm leaving. I'm packing my bags, I'm leaving, I'm going to Johannesburg. Hey, my mother protested there. It was a serious protest, and I mean, like, I'm the last born.
You can't go there.
You can't go there. What the? Old lady brings forms, Mchan. Old lady brings forms, police forms. SAPS. This comrade is saying, no, man, you should
apply for this job.
You should apply for this job. I spoke to someone that they will help you. And then I realized that
it's not for me.
Blue uniform, no, I'm fine. It's not for me. Some things are really not for you. And it's an element of really knowing yourself. At some point, she brought in some forms from Army. Joe, me, I'm fine. I'm not that guy, you know. And then I took a risk, man. I really took a risk. I took a bus, came to Johannesburg on the 7th, right? So, last year was an anniversary, if we would be very fancy and very, about it. But, man, I arrived. And when I arrived, trouble started now. You know, as much as you are confident that you're moving, this is the other thing about moves. And this is the other things about growing into a different phase of your life. Now, as I arrived in Joburg, I realized that, fuck. What am I gonna do? I don't know. The reality clicks in. As I'm in the bus, I'm like, hey, I'm excited. I'm in Josie. Once that bus got to Park Station, reality started, heart started beating faster. Now I feel like, where am I gonna sleep? Who's going to come fetch me here? I call a friend of mine that I studied with, Bongani. Bongs, my outie. I have a problem, man. I don't know where I'm going to sleep. Don't you know anyone? Because he was from Joburg, and he was like, no, there's a friend of mine who will come fetch you. This guy comes, finds me at Park Station. One morning, I get to the Dalamadaisi, get Levanyana, one morning, I go to Chagokasi. Ne one morning, Lena, Karane, get Shapaka, Kagon. So no, this guy takes me to Soweto, Deep Kloof. So I arrived there. We get into the hood, so we sit, buy some joints, we smoke with his friends, and now I'm trying to carve the guys. Who are these guys? I just got here, man, you know? And here I am thinking that, everything is going to pop now. At least I have a space to stay. I'm going to run my pains coming tomorrow. Arrive there, jumpers. This guy's father comes in and says to me, hey, bro, who are you? This guy must leave. So I get kicked out at 10 o'clock. Get kicked out at 10 o'clock in Deep Kloof. I just arrived. It's on the 7th of May. It's late at night. It's 10 o'clock. I just got into my blue pyjama. Did you see it? Yeah. I just got into my blue pyjama. When I had to change, this guy says, look, I have a room in Katleho, so we might as well leave. So no, sure. Rapara, para. The next thing, para, spetlele, kukatlu. Hey, my man, we walked the distance like from Park Station to Tsimuluho. You would know the distance. So, and at that point, I was like, fuck, what am I doing here? Do you get what I mean? And it was at a point where I really felt, hey man, this is a big thing that I just made. So fast forward, we get kicked out again. This guy doesn't pay rent. Like, I just dealt with a lot of drama that was unnecessary. And at that point, the biggest thing that I've learned is that if you don't have a base, it's difficult for you to get your life in place.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I started learning about just building bases in my life. Whatever I do, it's just building a base. And yeah, man, fast forward, I moved to town. I found a place in town. I stayed there for some time. I moved to another place. I think you came there once, that orange thing.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I moved somewhere else. Smart Sentials started moving. And I started selling now, I started making money. I started moving, things started showing, and then I started moving.
So in the journey that you were in, what do you think, talking to your journey and what needs to happen in the ecosystem that we are in now, what do you think would have made things easier for you on that journey?
I think, man, and I don't want to answer it in such a way that we need to push a correct narrative about what's going on in the ecosystem, right? I think at the time when we were starting, it was 2018, there were some active hubs, active incubations that were there that were assisting us, right? And it's unfortunate through COVID, and that's when I closed my business, right? So with all what has been happening in the world, it has directly affected my business as well, right? Because now we start to realize that when we are running a business, we are running it in a big environment, and we need to understand how the environment works as well, So for me, my man, I think we need to, it's like we use the word a lot. There's a certain diagnosis that needs to be put in place to be able to really understand where you are going wrong, if you are going wrong, right? Because sometimes we focus on the things that do not matter, right? Like building a social media platform or building a social media following. Sometimes it does not matter. What matters is you pushing invoices, you know what I'm saying? Because that will keep the business flowing. And once that is in place, you are able now to recruit and say that, okay, cool, we're going to have someone that focuses on the social media because we're trying to build brand awareness. Looking at my business, I moved it from, and this is Smart Sentials, right? Remember, I moved from Bloemfontein as a student or B2C, but in the student market. And I moved from that. I kept on pivoting upon pivot, right? Because for me to be able to see a sustainability model that runs the business and brings in money and the profits, that I need to change to paying customers. So from students, I moved into households, right? And then you realize with households that they were just buying because buy black, right? Because our message was buy black. And then I had to change that. And I was like, no, we are not building buy black because you're not buying from us through petty. Because that was the case. You'd see that buy black would run a campaign 1 month, buy black, it went up. And then after 2 months, it goes back because customer loyalty is not there. We did not follow the right customer journey, right? So what it means for us is that we were not building a business. We were building a personality out of the business. And
so the right diagnosis when people are starting would have helped you in the case that when you were starting, so that you could know what to focus on at that particular moment in time, and how to go about maneuvering in those areas.
And especially from a practitioner perspective, because we are working with institutions that bring in academics, that bring in coaches, facilitators, and we are the entrepreneurs looking for space, right? And if we're looking for space, it means that, okay, cool, when we get into the space, we need to be able to be equipped right? It's either through finances, if the needs are finances, because finances are always a need in startups, right? for instance, when I pivoted my business, and this is where incubation hubs also play a very important role, right? When I pivoted my business into selling to companies, we started seeing a new traction, right? We started seeing new money, right, from corporates now. I started invoices from 5,000. This is the first time I'm doing this. I'm flipping 24. Do you know what I mean? Well, 25 at the time. I'm starting to invoice 50,000 rand. I'm starting to, because now we are playing the game of, we know how to tender, we know how to play procurement, and we know how to get a client, right? And at the time, this is pre-COVID. Offices were full of people, right? So you find that with invoice in a month, man, I used to run around and say, hey, I need to raise money so that I can fulfill an order. Do you see what I'm saying? So if the right diagnosis is in place, I mean, like, I shouldn't be short of that money. Do you get what I mean? Because now it can say startup lending. How do you create access of finances to startups so that they can get into market?
Exactly.
Do you get what I'm saying? But some way, somehow, we managed to get through the hurdles. We grew, man. We grew. At some point, I had like 10 big corporates buying from me. These are clients that were on a monthly basis. And COVID hit us.
In terms of, I mean, you were talking about already, we must understand how the bigger environment that our businesses exist in, how it's operating, and the question that I thought of when you were saying that was, as far as entrepreneurship, the ecosystem is concerned. What do you think are the things that we need to work on, or the ecosystem needs to work on? Not necessarily us, but what is required in the ecosystem to make sure that entrepreneurs succeed, that they run sustainable businesses? Because I'm sure you've seen in that group about us being the longest in terms of reaching unicorn status. So what do you think the ecosystem needs for us to be able to fast track those kind of things and for us to have sustainable, successful businesses?
Yeah, so I think I think we are at the point where, well, for myself, for where I've been talking about networking, I've been talking about all these other things, you know what I'm saying, and I've been speaking about funding, but I think there's a fundamental thing that we are missing here, and the bigger thing is going towards how do we affect policy? How do we play a role in changing the landscape of the entrepreneurship space in South Africa and building ecosystems that are in line with what the government wants to achieve? Because I mean, like, it feels like we are neglected, and there's a big role that we need to play in the country, and I don't think it's taken seriously as well. Or there's I don't know, man. Like, we need to change, and not necessarily change, but challenge how entrepreneurship, the frameworks are, whatever that has been set up now, it does not necessarily speak to what's happening on the ground. There's no direct reflection of that, because in most cases, probably, and I don't want to say things that are going to put me in trouble now. I had to swallow something, So, but yeah, in case
you're unfiltered.
I'm unfiltered, but it's fine. Yeah, I am unfiltered. So. Maybe I need to package it well. I need to package it well.
That it lands properly.
Yeah, I'm no longer young. There was a point where I was young, and then I was very radical, and then that also put me. I was deregistered. Now I'll be deregistered somewhere else, and I don't know. I can't afford that.
so okay.
But my point really is to say that we need to be. We need to challenge policy. I don't know how, or how do we organize ourselves, or how do we create that.
But the policy that
we need that's the conversation that we need to be having. If everyone can start having conversation about policy, maybe some things can change. There'll be an appetite to play a role in policy changing.
And I mean, of course, policy it drives everything.
Sure.
It drives everything.
And that's how the state gets involved now.
Exactly.
Yeah, actively involved.
With the ecosystem.
Sure.
So for entrepreneurs that are, or prospective entrepreneurs, or people who are trying to start their own businesses, and you having been through the journey, having failed, successful, failed, then successful again, what is the advice that you give to them in starting the business, or while they're in the business? So let's start with the person who's starting.
Should I be honest? Should I be honest?
Yeah.
Really honest?
Really honest.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Because,
No, but
because when it doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop. It's addictive. It's a drug.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you have to be willing to, and you have to find the right people in your space that will be able to understand that about your life. You know what I mean? I mean, like, I started Smart Sentials 5 years. I closed it down. This is the first time I speak about it in public. I closed it 3 months ago. I can feel the effects of it emotionally, but I'm slowly but surely letting go and really letting go and focusing on a new thing. I'm on a new path now. So, yeah, man. If you are really gonna start, you need to go in. You need to go in. It's really about you, and make sure that you can self-sustain as well in that whole mess.
Be able to sustain yourself.
Be able to sustain yourself while you are starting this thing.
Things, because you will fail.
Yeah, you will fail, definitely. Definitely. And we don't speak about failure a lot in our country, and it becomes frowned upon. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it gives you loser vibes, you know, like he's a loser.
Because you
know?
And people that never fail are people who never tried it.
Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah, you won't know anything, man. You won't know anything. Just do it. Yeah.
So that's the person who's starting. The person who's in business and is struggling, and they want to give up. What are you saying to them?
Get a job. Like, I'm very honest, man. Get a job. You wanna be broke, nigga? Why do you wanna be broke? Do you get what I mean? I mean, like, I can't go back to Bloom, nigga. Do you get? Yeah, I can't go back to Bloom. I can't. I can't. I started.
Rather get a job.
Yeah.
So that it sustains you.
Yeah, it sustains me. I know.
Yeah.
I know. I'm still busy. You know what I'm saying? That drug will come again. You know. I mean, like, it's addictive. You know. So let's not be. This is not America. This is not. No, don't be romantic about this thing. It's harsh. South Africa. It's tough now in South Africa, my lord. It's harsh. But you need to be realistic with yourself. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. Sustainability is important, because when you're not sustainable, your mental health also takes a knock. So, what would you say? Not even what would you say, but let me just phrase that better. Your contribution to entrepreneurship in the country, to the ecosystem.
Sure.
What is it now, and what do you want it to be in the future?
Yeah. So, yeah, man. I think for where I find myself now, and putting things into really perspective and realizing the impact that I have, and I don't look at it from a place of, oh, I'm doing great stuff. Oh, but I mean, like, and real stuff, man. Like, I mean, like, we started a company, a new company called Rethink Afrika. It has been running for the past 3 years. It has managed to keep me going. It has managed to sustain the addiction. You know what I'm saying? Because it's an addiction. You know what I'm saying? It's drugs. So I have to get my shot.
Your fix.
My fix, you know. So I found a fix, and it's keeping me going, man. And the other thing is that my contribution to that now, we are playing into the e-commerce space, and mostly in content development, right? And just trying to create content that speaks to entrepreneurs, right? Like, when you asked me a question of what is the problem in the ecosystem, diagnosis, right? I'm a player who's played the game, and now I also want to be the one who's directing the game. Remember, I spoke about policy, so I'm trying to get into that space as well. You know what I mean? So
Mr. Likhojane with an L-I.
Sure.
Quickly, before we wrap things up, interesting things that you are up to right now, and where can people find you?
So the interesting things that I'm busy with right now is I found a new supplier. So I think I've got some new drugs to sell. And when I mean drugs, I'm not talking about actual drugs. I mean, like, entrepreneurship is a drug. So I found something else. I'm launching a new plant store. I mean, like, you can see I have plants. So I'm launching a new plant store, and and I'm busy, man. I'm busy.
So where can people find you on the socials, and where can they find you?
So basically, I interact a lot on social, on Twitter. So I call myself Dangerous Darky there. So if you can say Dangerous Darky, you'll find me. And on Instagram is Umtu Abantu, but Instagram is just pictures. But on Facebook also I'm very interactive. It's Lebo Likhojane. Yeah, you can find it. Lebo Likhojane.
With an H.
With an H, yeah. Ke Mosotho, yeah. Ke monna Mosotho. Yeah.
Mr. Likhojane, business pages?
Just find me at Rethink Afrika.
Rethink Afrika.
With a dot online.
Dot online.
Yeah.
That's a Rethink Afrika. RETHINKAFRIKA.
Yeah, KA
dot
with
online.
a K. Yeah, dot online. Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining me and the guests for another episode of Founders Unfiltered. That was Lebo Likhojane, Lebo with an H, Likhojane with an LI. That's Lebo Likhojane on Facebook. Umtu Abantu on Instagram, Dangerous Daki on Twitter, and his company is Rethink Afrika online. So that's RETHINKAFRIKA.online. That's where you find him. So that's reps for this episode. Founders Unfiltered on YouTube, Founders Unfiltered on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Yes, we are on there. And then check out our sponsor, BizTweak, on BizTweak SA on Twitter, BizTweak SA on Facebook, and then BizTweak on Instagram. Aye, that's a mouthful. Guys, cheers.